Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Reasons and Resources. So as you can see, we are taking a look at reasons and resources for learning F sharp. So as always, I'll just go through, the reasons why or why not I have dabbled in a language, and then we'll look at some reasons outside of that, and then we'll look at some resources. So what was interesting for this episode is I was trying to rack my brains and think, like, what was the first time I dabbled with F sharp, and what were my reasons? And it took a bit of digging actually, because when I look at the channel, talking about programming on the channel a lot probably started around 2022. And I think before that, if I had done any videos on programming languages, it might have been in passing. But that was when a lot of sort of runs of series started. So there was a series I did on Rust, and there was a few other things as well. And originally I thought I'd learned F sharp around 2022 as a follow-on from Closure. And how that came about, or how I thought it came about, was as a result of me sort of monitoring changes in the top paying chart on the yearly Stack Overflow survey. And I thought, no, it can't be 2022, because there was a year when Closure dropped out of the chart. And I know it was before then, so I've managed to pin it down to sometime in 2019. And I think I was doing a bit of a learning program then, where I was sort of taking a look at a different language every month, but the wheels fell off of that because I was sort of working full time as well, so it's a bit difficult to maintain. But what had happened was 1 month was Closure, and I had also had membership at that point to O'Reilly, so I was able to sort of access all the programming books. And so I was what was piqued my curiosity is that when I looked at 2019 and previous years at that point, and I don't think I'd created this spreadsheet at that point, I think I was doing it all manually in a little graph book I had. I'd sort of noticed that Closure was regularly featuring in the top 5, and so that got me interested. And then I'd noticed that year F sharp was number 2 that year, although I don't know if it was in the top 5. There it is, yeah. So that was also in the top 5. So I was sort of looking at languages that had been in the top 5 for the 3 years, including 2019. I think that's how I was doing it. So I'd sort of come up with this hit list of programs, and I think I'd extended it to the top 10, and then looked at the most popular languages as well, and come up with a hybrid. But I spent a month dabbling with Closure, and then the following month I started F sharp and played around with it for a month, and then the wheels sort of fell off that project, and I didn't really start looking at Closure and F sharp again until really 2022. So I suppose where I'm going with this is my knowledge of the language currently is fairly limited. I have dabbled in it, and all the more reason for me to now at some convenient point pick it up again and take a look at it. It's we've had a bit of a run, haven't we, over the last few videos, so we're sort of in that whole sort of ML OCaml territory at the moment, and we'll see where we're going when we get onto the Programming Polyglot WordPress site. So I'll include links to various parts of the F sharp article on Wikipedia. But let's think about some other reasons beyond, I've taken a look at it and isn't it interesting reasons. and just think about what are some selling points, I suppose, to take a look at it. So conciseness and readability is one thing, so it has a very expressive, compact syntax. And I was just gonna, where's some, normally I show you some code at this point, don't I? It's alright, I got a little bit distracted this morning because there was a certain number of releases when I recorded this video. Not by the time it goes out, because there's normally a several week delay between me recording and it going out, but I was looking at sort of recent developments in AI models, and I got sort of sidetracked when I sort of cobbled together something to do a special video on. So yeah, here's some very simple examples of code shapes, which I always like to look at. I'm very interested in code shapes, and I really like that book. Was it Programmer's Brain, I think it's called? So yeah, the aesthetics of code. It's a very interesting thing. Other things, robustness, reliability, to do with type systems and immutability. And certainly, I must admit, going from Clojure to F# was really useful in that respect. Powerful functional programming paradigm. So it's functional first programming language. So that, of course, encourages you, even though it is multi-paradigm, and there are other paradigms within there, you'll notice, I think, that's the way the code is and the way the syntax is expressed, it does encourage you to think about problems in that sort of functional frame of mind. If you're interested in data-driven applications and concurrency, it's definitely worth taking a look at it. And the other thing is they're pretty cool ecosystem. So it's a fully supported language in Visual Studio and various plugins as well. And again, if you're interested in going down like programming language rabbit holes, family tree type things, then yeah, it's got some interesting influence by, and then what it went into influence. So that's always fun to go down, and I'm trying to, in my mind, actually put together a series like that where I look at, say, a certain language and then go forward. So don't go backwards, go forward. So, if I did an episode, or I don't know what I'm going to call the series yet, but something along the lines of, relations of F#, then it'd be interesting to do compare and contrasts of the aesthetics of coding for, say, F# versus C#, Elm, F** and LiveScript, that sort of thing. But I'm still trying to get my head round how I might do a series like that without getting bogged down and spending 5 hours doing a video. So we'll see where that goes. But that probably won't be until after I get through all of these. So we're probably talking about somewhere in 2026 maybe. But we'll see. We'll see where things go with the other stuff I'm doing, like the tiny experiments and things like that. So let us just move through the usual Stack Overflow shenanigans. So I've still got the 2024 stuff. 2025 is out, but as you know, I did notice that my favourite area, 2.4, seems to be absent now. So let's just see where F# is in terms of most popular technologies. I think it's pretty far down here. Yeah, there. Of course, at the top we've got the usual suspects. And if you get a chance to look at the Stack Overflow stats year on year, for the survey they do each year, you probably see that, you know, the top 10 in terms of what's in there doesn't really change that much. The positions change a little bit. I think this year didn't Python go up a little bit further? Actually, we'll see in a moment. We'll have a quick look because I am taking a quick look at 2025. Admired and desired. So where is F sharp on there? Oh my word. A lot of these have quite a wide gap, don't they? So 2.2% desired, 53.1% admired. And then we have the top paying technologies. And yeah, still what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Still, yeah, still in the top 10. And, you know, as I pointed out, you can sort of see if you look at the year-on-year stuff, like how that might have changed over time. I tend to just go back to 2017. You can go back further. There's earlier Stack Overflow results, but I tend to start from 2017. And then I'm sort of going forward from there. As you can see, there was this weird year. Don't know quite what happened there. Where suddenly, like, Pearl shot up and everything dropped off the F sharp, and Closure seemingly dropped off the bottom. So I don't know if that was an anomaly. I don't think it's an anomaly in my data collection. It could be, but yeah, something strange happened there in 2020. And then the new stuff. So where is it here? Yeah, still pretty low down. And what about this one? Yeah, this value's come down a little bit, hasn't it? I think. And this may have gone up a little bit. And the other thing, which I don't tend to look at that much, this fancy graph. I don't think it will be in there somehow. Yeah, this one's, they've, for good or bad, they've gone down a bit of an AI rabbit hole in this particular year. So then we get on to actual, you know, moving from, I suppose, reasons into the resources. So yeah, I suppose front and center we have the fsharp.org. So that, you know, that would be where I would go to first. And within that, you've got the documentation, so the language reference. There's quite a handy cheat sheet, actually. I think I've used this before. Is this the one I'm thinking of? Might be. I think the one I used originally when I first learned it might have been a different one, but that could be an earlier iteration. So it's pretty handy. It's a nice little sort of succinct, relatively succinct, only 27 pages cheat sheet. So it's quite fun to just work through these in order, actually. From top to bottom, just fire something up and have a play. What else have we got? This, which is F Sharp Fun and Profit. You can sort of drill down through this. Very nice. We have the F Sharp community projects. It's always interesting to see what projects are being worked on in the community. So there's quite a lot going on there, you can see. And then we have this, which is a list of books on the fsharp.org, which is always interesting to see what books are recommended. So there's F Sharp in Action. I was trying to think the one that I read or flick through when I had O'Reilly membership. This one, I think, and maybe the top one that they had at the very top, which was the where are we? Yeah, F Sharp in Action. But I do remember the cover of this one. And some of these, it's interesting, crop up. I don't know if anybody watches the channel, leverages some of the resources you can get by just having like library membership, your local public library. You can log on a certain number of resources and get access through, was it Libby, and I'm trying to think of the other one. And I have found certain programming book series crop up on those. I think the Pragmatic Programming imprint has several books in there, so yeah, that's always worth a look. And we're seeing more and more books now that are being released under Creative Commons, and then the publisher stroke author puts them up on their GitHub page in sort of menu format, so that's always nice to see. I didn't look to see actually if there was a REPL for this. Let me have a look. Don't know if there is, but you can see here, they've got all there's F# in the browser. Oh, there we go, yeah. That's it. And we got Fable and so on. So yeah, you can, experiment without even installing it in your browser. So that's really cool. I'm sorry, installing it on your system. So that was always fun. And then I've just collected a few semi-random, I suppose, F# related videos that might be of interest. Some newer, some older. There's an interesting one here from NDC conferences, which I often sort of look through. So we got Don Syme there. Use of F# at Microsoft Research, NDC Oslo 2017, and then this one from a year ago, Domain Modeling Made Functional. F# is featured on Exorcism. I always like to just check and see whether they've got anything on there, because if you're one of these people that likes to work through similar problems in different languages, it's quite handy for that, this website. You can sort of go across the languages trying out different exercises. It's not as many, there's only about 15 key concepts on here. Learn X in Y minutes. Another great resource for just if you like to just go through sort of cheat sheets, trying things out. I know my sort of Learn to Code, Code to Learn series, I suppose, took that approach in some ways, in where I would sort of go through like a code cheat sheet and try out various things. That's always fun to play around with, and copy paste, butcher the code. I mean, obviously what I tend to do is I quite like to take a small chunk of stuff, which is where the tiny experiments idea came from. Just take a really small chunk of code and just work with it, and kick the tires and not try and do too much at once, and often just do the same stuff over and over again on consecutive days, but just playing around with different things. And then I find that does embed it quite nicely in my brain. So on the Programming Polyglot project, I have done F#. It's a bit of a skip now. So for the next couple of episodes, when I do these, we're doing pure script and Idris. There's not any information currently on there, but yeah, F#, usual stuff. So key features, idioms, binding and scope. If you look through this, you know the usual stuff. Functions and closures, what they look like in the language. Frames, argument passing, prototypes and classes. And some of these may be just similar concepts through different lenses as well. Extensions in the language, what that sort of means. Dispatch, how you might sort of dispatch things like methods, those sort of things. Sometimes you might dispatch through pattern matching if the language allows it. So that's where you're sort of firing off different functions based on the matching various criteria. Operators, always interesting to see. And in some ways, I think, if you're going across different languages, some of the sort of easy route in is to look and see how the operators are in the different languages, because you're going to find a lot of commonality there usually. Things like control flow, it's always interesting as well to see how that's done across the different languages. Matching, pattern matching. Again, so a little bit of repetition here, because you are going to get overlap when you're talking about dispatching in languages where you're dispatching different functions based on certain criteria. And if a language has a pattern matching, because might be using that to do the dispatch, or you might be using if then or something else maybe. Type systems, or type system in the language. Type inference, and those two are obviously interconnected. Immutability, it's always interesting to play around with if you're not used to a language that's immutable. And it was interesting obviously for me coming in through Closure into F#. That sort of, I found, blended itself up really well. Messaging and so on and so forth. Synchronization, it's always fun to try and work out in a language. Normally takes a few goes sometimes. Pointers and garbage collection, how that is dealt with, particularly if you've come in from something like, say, C. Metaprogramming, if you've come in from a language where there's really strong metaprogramming features and macros and stuff like that. So yeah, there we have it. Hopefully you've enjoyed this episode, and thanks once again for watching. Bye for now, and I'll catch you in a future episode.